It would not rely so heavily on fear-mongering narratives of cisgender white girls falling victim to men of color. Instead, it would acknowledge that Indigenous women experience the highest rates of homicide, often at the hands of white men. It would depict the stories of the several transgender women murdered each month, or the countless Black, brown, and Indigenous women who have gone missing without so much as an investigation. The language of true crime is coded. It tells us our degree of mourning is contingent on the victim's story. While students and athletes are often remembered for their accolades and looks, sex workers or women who struggled with addiction are reduced to those identities as a justification for the violence committed against them, if their stories are even covered at all. The truth is, it is a privilege to have your body looked for. True crime, while being a genre that so many women rely on for contorted validation, is, simultaneously, a perpetuator of misogyny, racism, and sexualized violence, all of which is centered around one beloved dead girl. It is a genre primarily produced by men, a genre that complicates how we bond over our love for it, often unsure of who identifies with the victim and who identifies with the perpetrator. I found true crime because of my fear, a fear that, for so long, felt absurd and loud and wholly my own. True crime taught me that I am not the only one being devoured by this anxiety, and I am not the only one whose reaction is to consume as much true crime as possible, to fuel and fight it at once. But the true crime I want is written by women. The true crime I want moves beyond the star athlete. I want the stories that honor girls, not sensationalize them. The true crime I want knows that more than half of the women murdered worldwide are killed by their partners or family members. The true crime I want does not celebrate police or prison as a final act of justice, but recognizes these systems as perpetrators too, defective, corrupt, and complicit in the same violence that they prosecute. As an avid consumer of true crime in all genres, short stories, documentaries, podcasts, television shows, and as a writer myself, I began to wonder what stake poetry has in that conversation. What happens when we look at the phenomenon of our obsession with homicide and we say, "This is how this makes me feel. This is what this does to me at night." I want to look beyond true crime to understand why I feel the way I do. I want to look at my own life, at the lives of women I love, women I've lost, women in my community and beyond, and begin to understand that the fear inside me is a product of simply being alive. Yes, I am terrified of being murdered. I am terrified that a man who threatened me on the internet will come to one of my shows with a gun. I am terrified of rejecting men harshly because of the backlash that comes with it. I am not terrified because true crime told me to be. I am terrified because I have been here long enough to know I should be. This feeling dictates the ways I move, in parking garages, at bars, in my own house, and I have grown to know this feeling so intimately that I also experience a need to protect it, to understand where it was born, to name it, and to say it out loud. This is a book of poems about true crime. It is also a book of poems about the many small violences a person can withstand. It is a book about memory and girlhood. This book is, in large part, a memoir of my fear and how it was planted in me as a child, then perpetuated throughout my adult life. This book remembers the ways I have watched women I love disintegrate at the hands of men they trusted, girls found and not found, and ultimately, how I have healed while keeping some necessary part of this fear intact. I cannot promise you will be less afraid when you finish listening, but I hope you will feel more able to name what lives inside you. I asked earlier what stake poetry has in this conversation. The only answer I have is this: to help us feel less alone in the dark. 1. Sometimes the girls who walk alone aren't found for days or weeks. Tracy Chapman. Girl, after Ada Limon.